Hey everyone, Saul from Three Kingdoms Games here. Coming to you today with part 4 of my Commander 2019 review. This will be the last part in the series. And in this video, I will be covering the Jeskai Flashback deck, which is clearly the 4th ranked in my listing, which is unfortunate because when I heard this originally spoiled, I was hoping that this would be a better deck because it sounded like it would have a lot of potential, given how evergreen of a mechanic Flashback is. Now, when Wizards first announced their Commander 2019, they said they were going to be using mechanics we haven't seen in a while. So, the mechanics they chose, Madness, last time we saw it was Shadows over Innistrad, the last block of Innistrad, and that was about 3 years ago. We then had Morph, which we haven't seen since Khans of Tarkir, which is, about 4 or 5 years ago? So, not bad, interesting, but, it's been a while, and let's be real, no one really cared about Morph. Populate, which we haven't seen since Return to Ravnica, which is about 6 years, so that's actually quite a while. And then Flashback was the last one. We just got that in Modern Horizons less than 2 months ago. I don't consider this that long to wait for this mechanic, plus it's also a evergreen mechanic, so it really is something we see quite often. I would have preferred if they picked a different mechanic for the 4th one, or if they picked a different color combination, because Flashback shows up in 5 colors. Then again, also Morph shows up in 5 colors. But they picked Sultai for Morph, and I get it, and they wanted to probably stick to the standard practice they have nowadays, which is essentially 3 3-color decks and 1 2-color deck. So, kind of fits for the themes that they're going with. Populate gained the red, which made sense. Sultai Morph, sure, no one really cares about Morph. And, Jeskai Flashback. The problem I have with Jeskai Flashback is blue Flashback, really strong. Red Flashback, really strong. White is one of the weaker Flashback colors, or generally it's white and then you need something else to flash it back, i.e. black with like Lingering Souls, or things like that. So it's kind of weird that they picked white as the 3rd color to me, but it is what it is. So, the main commander in this box is Savini the Chronoclasm, 5 CMC, 2/2 human wizard. Prevent all damage to him, which is great because it has built-in resilience. That means in the sense that mass just damage effects won't kill it, as well as targeted damage effects won't kill it. And the first instant or sorcery you cast from your graveyard each turn gets copied. This is really cool. I think it'd be a really good commander to build around. Unfortunately, if you're using this precon for this commander, you're going to have to upgrade it a lot to get it to where it needs to be, because this precon, more than any of the other ones, I will reiterate myself again, it's what I've said in every single one of these commander videos. The 3 commanders in this deck kind of fight each other. They don't work together. They don't really have great synergies the way I would love to see it, but I get why they're doing it, so that you have more variety in possible commanders for future deck construction. But for Savini, if you want to build it, you're going to need to add things like one of the reprints I think should have been in this deck, and it's almost criminal that it's not, is Past in Flames. Past in Flames is an instant inclusion in this deck. The fact that it's not in there kind of surprises me, because it's not that expensive. It's been, a couple years since we got a reprint of it. Kind of makes sense to me that they'd include it. So, it is what it is, though. They gave us it. Next up, you have Primacon, the Sky Rampart. It's a 3 CMC, 1/5 wall. Has Flying Defender. When it enters the battlefield, you choose left or right. Whichever direction you choose, that's the only direction all players can attack. So this is a really interesting one. I've heard a lot of people see it, and they start talking about trying to build Wall Tribal. If you want to build Wall Tribal, build Arcades. This is not a Wall Tribal deck. That is a trap. That is absolutely a trap if you think this is going to be your Wall Tribal commander. What this is a perfect example of a Jeskai either stacks or chaos commander, in my opinion, just because you're going to instantly, the second it comes out, has an impact on the board. You get to choose which direction you're now going, which feeds into the whole chaos idea of you wanting to, kind of mess with everyone. Or the stacks idea of the same kind of thing. You're trying to slow down the board. So you choose someone who, let's say there's a spellslinger sitting to your left. So you choose right. So he has to attack into you since you're on his right. And he has no creatures or anything, and you're kind of safe that way, and you can only attack the one direction. So you're making it kind of, controlling where people are going to go. Easily in Jeskai, you have some of the best stacks effects between Stranglehold, Ghostly Prison, Sphere of Resistance. Sorry, Sphere of Safety. Whichever sphere it is. The one for enchantments, if you want to go Jeskai like Pillow Fort enchantments. Propaganda. And the list goes on. It's an amazing amount of things that you can get in Jeskai for stacks or for chaos, because you have access again to red, blue, which have some of the most chaos effects that you can ever possibly get in things like Hive Mind and stuff like that. So right there, if you're going to build Primacon Sky Rampart as your commander, do not do the wall tribal thing. It is a trap. It will not work well because you're now relying on very few effects that will let your walls actually attack. Unless you maybe have some amazing win con outside of your walls attacking as a potential way to win. And last is Elish of the Infinite. 5 CMC, 3/3, Jin Monk with prowess. Look at the top card of your library anytime. If the top card of your library is a non-creature, non-land spell, you can cast it. That's huge. Right there, this means you can do Jeskai Spellslinging straight off the top of your deck. Or you can go into like a Jeskai Control Voltron kind of build, because you can now instant cast enchantments straight off your deck and make Elesh your only creature in your deck, and then just cast everything onto him or to protect him, which is, again, kind of interesting, kind of different way to run it. It'd be cool to see a Jeskai deck kind of built this way. But if you're building this kind of a Jeskai deck, it's almost like the old school Narset deck at this point. So I don't know how I feel about Elesh. It could be a lot of fun. But either way, I can see how this one can kind of work with Savini in the case of getting cards from your deck directly into your graveyard so you can then flash them back. But still, it's kind of not as coherent as I would like. If you were, to upgrade Elesh, you have all kinds of cool things that you could do. Stuff like, well, pretty much everything that would be in the Boggles deck, except for the green components. You have all the Umbras, you have all the enchantments, you have all the artifacts you can cast off that, you can equip to him. Lots of fun, cool things, and the fact that his ability lets you cast them as if they had flash is great. That means, at instant speed during combat, you're suddenly ripping enchantments off the top of your deck and slapping them onto him. Or in response to removal effects, you might have a way to prevent it off the top of your deck. Also lets you do removal at instant speed. That might be sorcery speed. Very, very strong commander, I think. Just, I don't know, sometimes Jeskai commanders are really iffy to me because their win cons are kind of murky. But overall, it's still a fun deck. It is unfortunately the 4th one on my ranking, which is disappointing to me because I was hoping for this one to be one of the better ones, because Flashback as a mechanic does have a lot of potential for abuse. But overall, I want to say this Commander 2019 is really strong, has some amazing reprints and new cards, and in general is a pretty strong set. I would have liked some better reprints, but that's something I could say every year for Commander. Now, if we compare this to last year's Commander, it's an amazing set, but then again, using last year's Commander as the bar is kind of really hard to do because it was kind of a weak Commander set. There were some cool new cards, some cool reprints, but overall they were some of the weaker decks in general. So just to conclude, what that means, at the end of this series is that the Madness deck, I think, is one of the strongest ones straight out of the box. I saw someone who already mocked up a Falconwrath deck using Ange Falconwrath, and it was amazing because all your Madness effects turn into cantrips in your hand. You don't even need to use them to cast them for Madness. you can just go tap, discard. Maybe the madness effect has nothing to do with what you're doing. Draw a new card, untap her. Right there, that's huge. That's an amazing ability to just be able to flush through your deck. Then you have the populate deck, which in my opinion is the second strongest out of the box. Now, with modifications and stuff, unfortunately, because it's a creature smash strategy, generally speaking, it will not be as strong as some of the other ones. But creature smash can still win in, a non-CDH pod. And being able to populate rhinos and other big things, you pair this with the rampaging Baloth, which comes in there, and other things you already have in the deck, and it can get crazy really quickly, especially if you combine it with like Helm of the Host and other stuff like that help you create tokens quickly. And overall, I think this is a great deck. You have your Sultai Morph, which is still a strong deck, but unfortunately compared to the other ones in this set, isn't as good, and the commanders internally really fight each other because they don't have any kind of built-in morph effects or payoffs for playing them with morph cards. So I don't see what they have to do with each other, but they are amazing commanders in it. Like Ramia looks fantastic. Kadana looks great. Getting to be able to cast your free card, draw a card, pretty huge. Or if you pair this with the new Ugin, because they're technically colorless spells when you're casting them for 3, you can make your morphs cost 1. So free or 1, either way works really well if your commander's out. So pay 1, draw a card. If you have ramp, that's great. If you can figure out a way to flicker the stuff so they flip face up. If they don't have a 1 flip face up trigger that you want, there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do with this deck. And lastly, you just heard me talk about the flashback deck. Overall, I wish it was a stronger mechanic they were using, but for flashback, they did some cool stuff. Again, the commanders really fight each other, but they're really cool commanders. So I think all these are worth picking up. It just depends on your playstyle and what you really want to do with your commander games. If you want some new toys to play with, if you're a Gruul player, the populate deck is still actually probably worth picking up just because you get a lot of cool, fun toys. All the combinations of colors have something to get here. So there you have it. That's my thoughts on the Commander 2019 decks and as a whole, what I think about them. If you have, different opinion of mine or you want to share your thoughts, feel free to comment below. As always, you can follow us on all major social media. That's in the description box. You can follow our blogs at threekingdomsgames.com. And you can always stop into store. There's one in Markham, one in Toronto to see what's going on. I'll see you next time.